So prices push up, push up, push up, push up until sales volume collapses. And then once sales volume collapses, prices collapse. And so the best way of looking at it is if you like to, if you're a shopper, you go to the supermarket on Monday, okay? And if you want to buy your meat, then you start looking at what didn't sell over the weekend, and you're going to get some really good sales. So
all right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I have with me Bob Kudla. You know, we always talk every month about things that we're seeing on the economic landscape that are going to affect your life. So Bob over at Trade Genius Academy or tradelikeagenius.com. The way it's looking so far for this month setting up, a lot of things are disappearing that were the free money cash cow for so many people who didn't want to work. So we're going to see this economic slowdown. At the same time, the rent moratorium, eviction moratorium is dissipating in different counties and states. The free money for unemployment, I think that has ended already or is going to be ending for so many of the extra amounts of money that allowed people to buy new boats while they were not paying their rent and living just on the high hog from government assistance. That's all going to end at the moment. But then we see how many family businesses were wiped out. We got the debacle going on in China right now. Not only the pullback of IPOs and foreign investment pulling back in, but it seems like the Lehman Brothers moment is happening there as well, where the suspension of trading for bonds from different companies when they pledge those as collateral for loans, and now they're called back in, and there's a complete shattering and collapsing happening in China in the markets as well. And then at the same time, El Salvador went live with its use of Bitcoin today, but then the markets got absolutely crushed. And then all these stoppages and outages across Coinbase, Bittrex, Kraken, and so many other things that we're seeing that are beyond anomalous in the cryptocurrency sphere right now. You can't tell me that 4 exchanges are having problems at the same time here in the US just because of, is it 5? Yeah, what is going on here? I'm curious myself about the cryptocurrency. And again, Bob Kudla, tradelikeagenius.com. And away we go with some information that I think will help you get prepared for the changes that are coming, so you can look a little bit around the corner versus what the mainstream news is feeding you. Bob, welcome.
Yeah, hey Dave, thanks. So I called it the Biden Waterloo. So you put a stake in the ground, third week of August, and the stock market hasn't really recovered from then. You know, they keep trying to lift these high beta, high cap games, names and trying to keep the game going. But the market's has been on a little slippery slope since then, because I think when people lose confidence in the leadership of the United States, then you're going to lose confidence in the stock market. And that's what happened. If you look at Jimmy Carter and Joe Biden are such an eerie facsimile of each other that you have to pay attention to what's coming next. And what's coming next in the US market is higher energy costs, higher commodity costs, lower stock costs, higher misery. And then if it was just the United States, we could deal with it. But China is an incredible black hole. Your listeners will not find this anything new in my view. China is the ultimate Potemkin village. People talk about China being the next. Well, it's the next Ponzi. They make America's debt look like nothing. And so they have a company out there that you alluded to when you were giving your intro called Evergrande. Evergrande is $305 billion in debt. They constantly go to the commercial paper markets, which means it's the short-term funding market. They pay high interest rates, short-term funding. It's kind of like a honey to flies, except when things get bad, the honey has fly paper in it, and people start getting caught in it. And that's what happened with Lehman, is that people were funding Lehman at high interest rates. Hey, this is great stuff. I'm getting 12%, 14%, 18%. I'm only at risk for a week. Well, today or yesterday, they stopped trading those bonds. They're calling it the $1 trillion mistake. It's going to make Lehman Brothers look like the mom and pop pizza place went out of business. Why that's important to crypto, and I think one of the reasons why crypto did this huge move down today, like just like kind of an out of the blue thing. You got to remember, some of these companies been using Tether, in their banking systems, and it's tied to maybe pledging Bitcoin as collateral and different things. And somebody got called on these things, and it wasn't just Bitcoin that fell. I've been trading Matic a lot lately. I'm so glad that my sell signal hit on Saturday. I got out at 175. I was on an interview this morning. I got off my interview and I'm like, why is Matic down at $1.11? That's how much these markets crashed within 15 minutes. Now they pulled back up again, but I think there's some short-term damage here. And the other thing about crypto, and I'm going to jump around here a little bit too. Mara and Riot were telling us last week that, especially Riot's been struggling of late, but this morning Mara and Riot weren't reacting positively to what I would say was a great crypto weekend of trading, pushed over 50,200. Matic hit back up to near its recent highs. Link was up at $35. All this good. Mar and Riot opened flat. I sold my Mar and Riot immediately at the open because they were telling me something was wrong in Bitcoin land. I had no idea what that was, but then we come to find out 2 hours later, we got this big sell-off. Well, Bitcoin kind of leads the stock market too. It's more sensitive to liquidity issues. And so now my expectation, and the market sold today, and it ended up on a downbeat too. So I'm thinking there's liquidity draining across the entire financial spectrum now. And I think it has to play itself out. So we could see this Evergrande thing taking a really, really nasty turn for the markets. And in that, we're going to see where the true safe havens are. So that's my
What are you
view.
thinking about then for the crypto? How much further down do you think it's going to be pulled underwater like a great white shark grabbing you by the leg and pulling you down? Because a lot of people were running to Bitcoin with their extra capital. Okay, I can get some massive gains here, but oh wait, I owe some money back there, so I need to sell my Bitcoin today to pay off that into the markets there. Because it was a shell Ponzi game over in China anyway. Everybody was lending and the government was lending, and they all made it look like it was all rosy. And how many times had this happened to smaller firms? Dozens already just last year, where their bonds became worthless. But now you're talking about one of the top 3 land developers and real estate, commercial real estate. When they do housing developments in China, if it's more remote countryside, they'll take out and it's a gated community, or if it's in the city, it's a high rise. There's a lot of, and they were overbuilding so much, and people were getting out second and third houses, and then there was all the regulation that came in for that. So it's been kind of a duct tape and baling wire thing put for the last year to keep the markets together from crashing in China anyway, but it appears that they can't really hide it any longer. So yeah, how many people are holding out in crypto that was their fast money bet that now need to sell everything in a fire sale to get money to really pay off a margin call somewhere else or a bond call in another market, developing markets? It seems like the contagion is going to spread everywhere. So how far do you think down crypto is going to get drugged down as everybody sells to pay off in the equities markets here?
Look, a lot of people don't realize this, but a lot of the Chinese, they're not trading inside of China. They've moved their money out into London and other places like that. So they're still, if they get a margin call back home, though, they got to cough up the dough, right? They might be living in China, but their money's not in China. And so, these things come in waves of 3, Dave. So we're just going to have to kind of wait and see. We're looking to see maybe push back up to 49K. And then we'll see where the next downstroke goes. I don't think we're going to get below 40K, 42K on this move. I think it's going to follow Fibonacci sequences. I think the market was surprised, and just like these exchanges do, there's no market makers here. They just walked away from the selling, and so they always overdo it. So I would take a look back to see where we hit the low this morning, and see if that gets retested, or if we start building a higher low from that. But I don't think crypto is going to be the problem. I think people will eventually move back into crypto because it's outside the banking system. I just think more and more Chinese now are losing their Bitcoin to a broader market around the world. So that I think gold and silver probably be a recipient of this activity, because it's going to force the Chinese to devalue their currency. I wouldn't be surprised if the Communist Party doesn't devalue their currency to print currency to pay these notes off. Okay. And then that'll force the United States to match them, because last time when we didn't follow Chinese on a devaluation, we dropped 18%. This was 3 years ago, within a matter of weeks. And who knows how frail Biden is and how weak their people are. Who knows how they're going to react to that? They may get caught flat-footed on that issue as well. So I'm looking for the market to have some sort of come to Jesus moment here. We'll see how fast. The Fed's been really fast at rescuing the market, because our Ponzi is pretty fragile as well, and then we just have to take it a day at a time. But look, we already moved out of anything high beta, high market cap, high tech, and we're already moving in core positions. The uranium is my number one position. I'm a broken record with you telling people to buy uranium. It's CCJ's up again. Look at CCJ. I'm expecting CCJ in the 50s at some point. So it's a core for me. So I'm trading around the edges only on that. Quad U, trading around the edges only on that. In fact, I've been only adding Quad U. It's rare earth and uranium in the U.S. And then other than that, silver, gold, platinum miners, and them are good friends. Mosaic in the fertilizer space is captivating my money. And other than that, everything else is just a trade for me.
Yeah, yours. Pebble bed, nuclear reactor. Yeah, that's funny. And also, with these exchange, I do want to jump back into crypto for a second. The exchanges that are all seemingly magically going down at the same time, lockups here. Oh, they put on a full maintenance stoppage. All your instant cash deposits been delayed, so you can't really trade. And they're like, what's happening with these 5 what you consider rock solid, exchanges here in the U.S., Coinbase, Kraken, etc. So what's going on here, where they all seem to be in unison crashing at the same time that El Salvador comes on with the first day of Bitcoin as a national sovereign currency? I just don't get how all 5, if one had gone down, okay, normal, maybe too much volume coming in, but 5 going down, or 4, I had said 4 in the beginning of the broadcast, you said 5, so I'll follow your lead on that. So what's happening with that? It makes no sense whatsoever, unless it's coordinated.
Well, I think it makes sense in which way in which they operate. They have they don't have a mature, market making market. So these are liquid exchanges. So, it's called stepping away, right? If you see something falling, you're not going to try to step in front of it, because you'll get rolled over. So you can't be a market maker. There's no place for you to hedge your risk like that in Bitcoin. So you're going to have these movements until you have a more robust derivatives market in Bitcoin. And it's not really robust yet. It's still fairly small, so you have to expect it, and that's the thing. If you're hodling, you shouldn't care what happened today. Who cares? If you're a trader, you got plenty of warning before this thing rolled over to take profit on an awesome weekend, and so I think, some of it was the Evergrande thing. I'm convinced some of it, there's liquidity issues in the U.S. stock market. I'm convinced. And the third thing is that, I think the IMF is running a temper tantrum because El Salvador just stuck a plank in their eye and said, we may be going a different direction than constantly letting you indebt us. So I think it was all those factors. Plus, we broke out of a channel, that the $50,200 area is basically a big channel that we came up from 27K after we broke out of the falling wedge that we had a couple months ago. You got to realize we're up 50% in 1 month on Bitcoin. So, people are like lemmings. So they see one person sell, everybody dumps their coin. And then my partner, Phil, who watches the market, said there is a hostile trader out there that tries to create these liquidity dumps so that they can force prices lower than where they sold. Bitcoin so they could pick up more Bitcoin at a cheaper price. So you get these in these smaller markets until Bitcoin gets more mature, and that can withstand these selling events. Is just, I'd expect, I wouldn't blame the exchanges so much. You got to be smarter than that. You got to expect it. How many times have this has happened? Every time there's a sell-off, you can't get your money out. In fact, one time they closed the exchange. I couldn't get access for 2 weeks. So they're very creative in their ways in which they can keep people from moving cash or moving coins out. No, don't overreact. I would start worrying if we retrace 2/3 of the gains we made from 27.5 to 52,000. So, wherever that is, that's $25,000. So if we retrace more than 18K from 52, so if we get below 34K, then I'd worry about the bull run. Until then, expect it. We're going to make big moves coming up.
And when I'm looking out at the crop yields coming in, or at least the reports out in the fields, making money is one thing. People got to eat. Now you're going to have incredible rising food prices and a lot of businesses down, and just things haven't remotely returned to anything remotely normal. So we enter this whole different, the Rubik's Cube just turned another whole quarter turn to the left there. So how are people going to be able to come up with the money with the rising food price at the same time markets are down? And then a lot of people are, thinking about crypto, it's up and down. Okay, that's a great way to make some money there. And then, obviously gold and silver proven through history, but in reality, that's not 100% of the population's going to be into that. So there's going to be a lot of struggling financially going on for people moving forward with the food price. Like I say, the rentals is really ridiculous now. Prices everywhere. BlackRock's got the rental market covered and cornered because they bought everything up in residential and, neighborhoods, commercial, anywhere. They're the largest rental land holder in America now. So how are people going to deal with all this? There's so many, like I say, falling walls of economic difficulties approaching the regular person who didn't prepare during this last year and a half, that was just sitting back like, hey, free money's awesome. I don't have to do it. This will last forever. And suddenly it's not lasting forever. And there's going to be a huge realization that your food doubled during this time. It's going to get more expensive next year. And the cavalry's not going to ride in with bags of cash to bail you out like they did last time. So where are we going with the average, say, person around the US or even in the world that's going to get pinched financially? Food,
So
rent, everything.
It's the escalator elevator doctrine of economics. So prices push up until sales volume collapses. And then once sales volume collapses, prices collapse. And so the best way of looking at it is, if you like to, if you're a shopper, you go to the supermarket on Monday, okay? And if you want to buy your meat, then you start looking at what didn't sell over the weekend, and you're going to get some really good sales. So yesterday, even though it was Labor Day, I went and, usually before the pandemic, you can get ribs for $2.99 a pound. Then they've been selling up to almost $4.99 a pound. And on Monday, they had them all on sale for $2.99 a pound again. So which tells me is that people can't afford $4.99 a pound, and they can only leave that stuff unfrozen for so long before they have to throw it away. So they dump the price. So you're going to start seeing that more and more. You just, for people to be smart shoppers, you have to know when to go in and shop. Is that they can only leave that stuff unfrozen for like 3 days before they have to dispose of it. So they'll mark it down and get it out of there, so they don't have to take the loss on it. But that's something people need to watch more and more, and you're going to see more and more of that happening across the board. The less somebody needs something, the more likely the price will start to collapse. But that's not going to help most people. But if you're a trader and you know that, those are the areas in which you can then take advantage of opportunities to either buy something cheap or to be able to use options and buy puts against that, so you can profit on them going down. And so that's one area to look at on that. The other thing too is, as you just mentioned, is that we're having these issues with this administration can't shoot straight. So everything is coming off at the same time. They get rid of the unemployment extra benefits the same weekend that the eviction moratoriums end. So people are now going to lose their homes at the same time the free federal money goes away. And watch Hawaii. You're already starting to see Hawaii already starting to tail off in visitations. They claim it's because they tell people not to come because of the COVID restrictions, but that's not the case. What's really happening is that Hawaii was inundated this summer with people making, $600 a week of federal unemployment money and not working and hopping on airplanes, catching cheap flights and going hanging out in Hawaii for a week or two and coming home. Well, that money's all gone and the summer's over. And so you start looking at those places, they're going to start suffering too. But it's all going to come to a head, Dave, like it always does. Like in 2008, we hit our highest prices, remember, in commodities and in real estate. And then what happened by the end of 2008? We were down 40%. These things, when they break, they don't glide. It's like an airplane stalling. They just rolls over. And you have to wait until there's enough people thinking it's cheap again before it stops. So people need to be very, very careful. If you're a YOLO trader or a FOMO trader, you need to take a step back and let this market correct to where there's value and where there's going to be other traders. So that's the best I can tell you. I think we're going to in for a rough ride. I don't think Biden makes it to the end of the year as president. I think that's going to cause volatility. And I don't mean it for any other reason, is that I think his health is deteriorating. He didn't even know where his sister was married or when. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. He starts telling a story and he goes off on a tangent. He's not showing up for work until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So this stuff's all going to catch up, and people now are unhappy. He has a 30% approval rating, and it's not going to take long for people to say, hey, we're going to have to try to recover before the midterm elections here, and we can't have Biden as a millstone around our neck. We're going to have to take our shot on Kamala and coach her, and I think that's what's going to happen. But that's going to be very volatile. People don't like a president that can't fulfill their term. Okay. And if you notice, Trump's losing a lot of weight. Have you noticed that? He's looking really thin, and he's very confident. DeSantis is doing extremely well. He played the COVID thing perfectly. So I think we're going to go into this trough here, but I'm always positive. The only thing that I really worry about is if we don't have a lot of rain this winter in California, you're talking taking the biggest, most fertile food production area in the world offline. And that's why I was showing you my garden before you got started. Because
it's been dented this year anyway, has it not? Like over there in California, what kind of reduction in crops have you seen firsthand or just heard stories of in the local news right there in California, in your neck of the woods, literally?
Yeah, you don't hear too much of the percentages other than they just basically all the grasslands are dried up. So they're killing their livestock, which means it's going to be a 2-year, rotation in. Everything has to be brought in, now with grains. We're going to next year, if we don't get a lot of rains, we're going to go to major water restrictions. And that's just going to basically kill farming completely because they won't be able to farm at all. And so then you'll be looking at 30, 40, 50% reductions, which, it'll be quite interesting how much things are going to cost, especially when you go farther east you go. So
so what do you think about Tyson Foods? They say they're trying to front run inflation, and that makes sense for me as a company trying to protect themselves and stay ahead of the inflation curve a little bit. But then when the earnings came out, it was like record earnings. They were up 25% over sales that they expected, and then they beat the estimate by almost $1 per share. And then they're passing on all these record price increases. And then, you're talking about prices dropping by to $2.99 a pound again, which they're still would inflation running even, I'll gotta say 12%. Okay. But they're running at 100% in front of. So, I mean, there's gotta be some sort of investigation. That's price gouging, in my opinion. So I don't know how much longer these types of, Tyson's a huge company involved with an enormous amount of food production and meat processing and everything else. One of the largest names that you'll ever see in American supermarkets, Tyson this, Tyson that, from the chicken to the beef, everything else. But how realistic do you think companies can gouge again? That would maybe be a one-off. They got away with it this time because food wasn't so expensive when people were on the streets rioting, going, hell no, I'm not paying that much for that. But Tyson, maybe they were testing the water to see, could they, gouge the customer, give record profits back to the shareholders, and then still play the victim of, oh, we were just trying to run in front of inflation. Like, how many more companies can do this before there's a serious pushback? Because it was amazing how the coup d'etat in that food market was done without anybody blinking an eye. And the only people who really talk about it are those like yourself or myself who look into the food markets, maybe look at the stock prices, and the average person on the street has no idea how much they were raked over the coals by Tyson. They really don't. It's criminal what they did.
Tyson's an interesting animal because they're mostly chicken, and chicken is you substitute down from beef to pork to chicken. So all they had to do is raise their prices a little bit. It still looked like a bargain to people, and then they come through. But at some point, no matter how much you raise your prices, you can't eat it because you can't afford it. And so you're gonna start seeing that come into for. Look, when the restaurants first started coming back online, they were packed. We made it a point to go out to eat once a week to support the local restaurants. Well, we couldn't get in, but over the last couple of weeks, the restaurants are back to half full. So I think a lot of this stuff, it just plays itself out. Price gouging is really tied to a specific event, from a legal standpoint. So we can say they're gouging, but at some point, they won't be able to carry the sales. They'll get a lot of pushback because the grocery stores get the heat, not Tyson. So the grocery stores will start pushing back on Tyson, and saying, hey, you're gonna have to start doing some things, and then the legislatures will start working on it from the inside. But this stuff all plays itself out. It doesn't mean that prices aren't going up. Our Federal Reserve is to thank for that, and our politicians. So everything's gonna be generally rising, but you're gonna get these push up and these hard drop off because they can't make the sales. They simply can't make the sales. But chicken's at the bottom of the food chain. Okay, look what happened with fish. They price fish out of the market. The only people that buy fish anymore, other than salmon, which is farm raised, and that other white meat, tilapia, which I wouldn't touch, if you gave it to me for free, is that it's now a niche market. But the thing we got to really worry about is that China is going to take all their reserves and buy all the food they can if things start happening. Look at the Three Gorges Dam. I think it's 12 meters from the top now, and I think it's filling up like 1 meter a week or something like that. And it's not even raining. It's been fairly dry. We haven't had the big super typhoons this year coming into China. So if one of those hits anytime soon, that they're going to have to dump water into the Yangtze, and then next thing you know it, well, a whole new set of problems on our hands. So it's going to be always something.
Yeah, I'm not sure how.
For me, I just look a week out, and personally, I plan my freezer's full. People's freezers need to be full, and and these politicians are doubling down on stupidity. Taking advantage of the higher prices to try to limit future demand. So you just gonna have to always be able to be one step ahead of them.
And you see a lot of news stories right now that keep focusing on the 22 grain barges that are sunk in the Mississippi, along with that high tension tower that had collapsed there with all 8 high voltage cables still attached to it. I don't know if it's a real thing, but it seems they're focusing a lot of attention on it to explain away another shortage, or maybe deter China from trying to buy, or explain away delivery shortages, or, excess lead times, or whatever it might be. But I just can't believe every time you turn in a dial now, it's back about the 22 grain barges, the 22 grain barges. How many times can you kick a dead horse with the 22 grain barges that sunk in the Mississippi after Hurricane Ida? I mean,
we got 42 ships out at Long Beach too. So look, these are manufactured shortages, because they realize that you could create a cascade, just like the Bitcoin thing. The guy that probably dumped the market, he was hoping to do what they do in the gold markets all the time, to create a cascade that will end up being lower than the average price they got by selling to start the cascade. That's what these shippers have done in Asia. They took enough ships off the supply to create a 4x move higher in shipping costs. So, there's always going to be adjustment. I just think this is going to be the year of volatility. So people are going to need to be really careful. The Fed pushes too hard to try to subdue it. They're just going to create even higher prices and make the problem even worse. So that's kind of how we're playing at Trade Genius. And if you want to trade with us, we had an awesome day today, and we're ready for this stuff coming off the summertime trading schedule, and we're positioned. I sent out notes for people this weekend of where they should be focused in, and I think we're going to get paid. But if you don't use my service, man, just buy some uranium and hang on. You'll be very happy with me that you did. But if you want to trade with us, just go to tradelikeagenius.com. I got 7 bundles for you guys, pre-discounted, 65% off. Trade crypto with us, trade stocks with us. We have algorithms, so I really don't care if what I'm telling Dave is I'm right or not. My algorithm is going to tell me whether there's buying coming in or out of these trades, and we just buy where the money's going in, and we sell where the money's going out, and we try to keep our biases neutral while we're trading, but always keeping our eye on the macro in the future. The Bible tells us what season you're in, so dress accordingly. And I think we're going into a season of volatility, higher prices, lower volume, stock market volatility. So come check us out. Our prices are good until Saturday, the 11th. And you can call, you can write, you can email us. We'll be and chat with us. We'll be happy to help you. But tradelikeagenius.com.
Excellent. And Bob, I had a question, dressing for the season of volatility. Should I be wearing a Hawaiian shirt, or should I be going optic orange, or what do you think the attire should be for such a season?
I'll answer with a story. There was the great admiral of the British fleet were fighting the Spanish fleet, and every day he walked out with his red blazer on, and they said, "Why are you wearing red?" He goes, "In case I was shot, the people won't see me bleed and lose heart." So one day they show up, there's 1,000 Spanish galleons coming towards the English coast, and the admiral walks out with brown breeches on. You get the joke?
He won't see himself.
There you go. So you got to know your season. So I think we're going to red to brown.
All right, Bob, appreciate your time here.
Yep.
Yeah, looks like a great sunny day in your area. Same here. But like I said, I'll leave that link in the description box below so you can reach out over there. And hopefully you got something out of our conversation that can help you kind of navigate through it's an absurd world that we're in right now. And if you can't, everybody sees as absurd. So any kind of nugget of information that you can help get through the insanity. Well, I'm glad you joined us today. Bye for now.
Thank you.